Hey, y'all. Hey, LinkedIn, YouTube. I feel like it's been forever. I'm looking over at my calendar. I feel like it's been a while since I've gone live, but oh my gosh, what a difference some time and distance makes. I'm so excited. Welcome to the High Vibe Zone. I'm Sharice Fons, and I'm so excited. I said that already, but it's true. Excited. It reminds me of a question that one of my client partners was asking their team is like, what is some traits that you got from your parents? And one of them is, I repeat myself when I'm excited. My mom does that, or when she's upset. But anyway, nevertheless, welcome to the High Vibe Zone. Super excited to have you. If you're watching live, just go ahead and drop where you're coming from, your name in the chat, what you're grateful for. We got a really good, nice conversation easing us back into the High Vibe Zone. I'm gonna go ahead and bring on my two amazing guests. We are not only a tribe together, but just these humans are really, really fantastic. And they're gonna help with this conversation today because we have some awesome things to talk about. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Maria and Kelsey. Hey, y'all. Hey. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome back
Hi.
to the High Vibe Zone. You've already been here before.
Excited to be back.
Yes, excited to have you guys. We are going to start with our encouraging card of the day, which I always find to be really aligned with what we're going to be talking about. So as I shuffle, I want to ask Maria, how did November Project go this morning?
Oh, well, to give a background, November Project is this free group of fitness, and about 20 to 30 people come together at a social distance, and we just work out for about 45 minutes. And so I got to do that this morning. I woke up at like 4:50 a.m. to bike to the workout to get there at 5:30. And then we did like lots of hills, sweaty burpees. There were mosquitoes. I thought of you. And then we biked over to get coffee. So it was a really fun morning.
Nice. All of that sounds good, minus mosquitoes, heat. The hills make me nervous, but I know you guys did an amazing job.
Well, we talk about it all the time. It's like, what makes you feel good to get started with your day?
Yeah. You know what's really interesting? My husband's been reading this book called The 5 a.m. Club, and they talk about your first hour of the day. If you work out for at least 20 minutes, you're burning cortisol. And that is not something we want. Cortisol is not the good hormone, y'all. More oxytocin, less cortisol. And so that first sweat of the day is so important, and you guys are knocking it out with the November Project. If you don't mind, in the comments, if you would link that to for people in the High Vibe Zone that are interested in joining. I did my first workout when I was in Austin. It was amazing, minus the mosquitoes, but it was so cool. So if you are local to any of the November Project crew, I highly recommend it.
I'll drop it in the comments.
Okay, awesome. All right. Okay, I'm just going to pull the card now. What is it? You can't really see my lighting. Oh my gosh. You are here for a reason. There we go. Our encouraging card of the day. So let's just open up with that discussion. Kelsey, what say you? You are here for a reason.
I am here for a reason. I love that card. That's so lovely. I think I'm here, let's say in the High Vibe Zone and with you and Maria for a big reason. I, have transitioned from full-time employment at one employer to a more, project-based approach to my work. And doing that has allowed me to really be thoughtful about designing my life and who I want to surround myself with, and the type of energy I want to take in, and the type of work I really want to get focused on doing. And so kind of like Maria was just mentioning about how you want to design that first hour at the morning of your day. I'm trying to get really clear on like, what are my natural flows and energy cycles, and what type of work I really want to do. So being here for a reason, Culture Circle has just challenged me to continue to get clearer and continue to trust. We were reflecting yesterday in our tribe meeting about our time together in Austin, and the first word that came to mind for me was abundance, and just really pushing my boundaries about what abundance looks like, even when you might not have the quote unquote financial security from a full-time one employer, but there's abundance looks so different. And so really opening up to the possibilities. And so being on this journey with both of you and being surrounded by you and our tribe members that just constantly inspire me is exactly why I'm here.
I love it. I love how you that's the first thing that seeps in for you when you hear you're here for a reason, because it obviously is also tied to a grander thing too. So I love that you shared that. Maria, what about you? What is you are here for a reason bring up for you?
I think a lot of times we might get caught up in the stories that we tell ourselves, and then we don't realize, or like maybe a not so good thing happens and then you're like, oh, why is this happening to me? But I think always coming back to remembering that you are here for a purpose, as a person, maybe in your role as like a leader of a family or leader of a workout group, or an employee at your job. It's the way you show up for yourself. You are here for different reasons. And like Kelsey said, with our team on site, it's like we all felt that with each other, and we all bring together different strengths, and that's what makes us special.
Yeah, I dig it. I will add that I love this stat. There's like a 1 in 4 trillion chance that you exist in this world. Like 1 in 4 trillion. That's with, the biology and how we are all created, the perfect timing, the universal alignment, all of that stuff. And I really do believe that you are here for a reason. What resonates with me is the presentness of that. You are here for a reason, not over there or over there. You're not in the past and you're not in the future. You are here for a reason. You are in this present moment for a reason. And I believe that as we start to create more connection with ourselves, we will understand why we are here. And if we ever look back, we can always see, okay, that's why I was there. And this same moment of presentness also has that same power and magic. So you are here for a reason. I am here for a reason. Those listening to the High Vibe Zone, you are here for a reason. So let's jump into our conversation. Maria, I'm going to kick it to you. What are we talking about today?
So a lot of us talk about the word humanity a lot, and I have it on my shirt. So do you, Sharice.
Happy Pride. Happy Pride, yes. Everyone. Yes, happy Pride.
Yes. You can show off your rainbow shirt.
This is the Respect the Rainbow. Camera view. There we go. Respect the Rainbow. And I definitely wear it with pride. So happy Pride to everyone that is celebrating, just sending you light, love, and abundance for this amazing celebratory month.
Yes, and that's a great segue into our topic of humanity, because it's a celebration not just for this month, but always for different people of different cultures, and different ways of identifying ourselves. So I guess to kick this off, what is the philosophy of humanity that we're bringing to life in Culture Circle through a lot of the workshops that we do, as well as through Humanity Power? What makes that unique?
Yeah, I think for me, it really starts with the vibration of humanity. Whenever I think of that, it reminds me actually of a story. I was in Costa Rica with my husband. I was 6 weeks pregnant with my 4th baby. And I was reading this article of people doing kind acts for each other. I'm like already getting like little chills. And I was like bawling. And my husband was just sitting on the bed, just like, okay, like, when is this going to be over? And it was like somebody helped someone's dog. And I'm just like, ah. And then like this person like brought someone food. And I'm literally sitting in this room, just crying my eyes out. And it was just this beautiful essence of us as humans doing things that just connect us in universal ways. Sometimes language was needed and sometimes it wasn't. And that for me was a beautiful representation of humanity. And so whenever I think of humanity, I think of the vibration that it brings. It is good. It is light. It is love. It is the purest components of ourselves. It is that first sight of the little human that's born that is just so full of light and love and cares nothing of how you smell or look and just like brings you in. And it's that kind word that someone gives to you. It's that smile with all the teeth that you have. It's the hug that just embraces you. And humanity can show up in different areas, but it all carries the same frequency. It all carries the same flow and alignment. And when we think of lack of humanity, we can easily pinpoint that's not being kind or that's not giving to others. And so I find that using the word humanity calms us, because that's essentially where we want to stay. We want to stay within that space. And with Culture Circle, the component there is bringing humanity into the workplace, because the workplace was not naturally built on humanity. It comes from the Industrial Revolution, where we had, it was like very much you're this worker and this is all that you are. And all of these things, you had a file number, you were, and then it moved to like human resources, which for the record, humans are not resources. Like there's all of these different components that separated us from our humanness, from us being. And then, so just really bringing that back has been the grounding purpose of when we talk about humanity and Culture Circle. And then if you talk about humanity power, oh my gosh, we're gonna be here all day. But humanity power, very similar to the shirts that we're both wearing, is there's unity in our humanity. And that unity being lit up is so powerful. And I've already explained the concept of humanity, but that whole unity component creates community, because there's also unity in community. And I think life and nature is leaving all of these little nuggets. And for me, it's like, oh, that seems like the simplest form to really start, and the basis. Everyone can start at humanity because we're all humans. It'd be different if we were all different things, but we are all humans. And then layers are added, which create complexity, but we're not going to get into all of that. But yes, that's how I would explain it. Kelsey, anything you would add to that?
I'm obviously fully on board with everything you've said. I love the simplicity of the reminders of who we are at our core, and the fact that we are all humans. I remember the first time you said that within a training, and it was just like, they're, again, the baby coming out, they don't know, the color, the age, the ability of the human, like they're connecting, and children are connecting with one another truly as humans. So how can we continue to keep that? And it takes active practice, and it takes surrounding yourself around people that are also actively seeking to bring humanity and unity into their day-to-day. So I think it is such a simple concept, but it's challenged regularly by society. And so I think that's the powerful piece of this message, of the work of Culture Circle. And it's just like really grounding people back into their humanity, and modeling what it can really look like in the workplace, what it can look like in a community, and what it can look like in our personal lives and our families, kind of every corner that we touch.
Yeah, I love that. And to bring it back to our encouraging card of the day, you are here for a reason. Humanity encompasses that. Humanity encompasses purpose. And I love how you said, you know, being around other people that recognize humanity. It's like being around other people that see you as human. There was a story that I was going to tell. I'm going to actually just tell it now because why not? I was reflecting on Pride Month and my first interaction. I was 17 years old and I was in San Francisco and I met this woman named Mia and we just like hit it off. Like we were like hanging out and just like besties, and she introduced me to her friends and I was just like, wow, you guys are like amazing. I was really like inspired by their makeup and everything. And then Mia told me that she was born a male. And I remember my reaction or my response, I kind of just sat there and like thought for a moment and then was like, okay. And then we just like continued on. And Mia was like my best friend. She was the first person I told that I was pregnant. She was there when I went to go get the pregnancy test. And she shared a lot about her world and like where she was coming from. And we just had a lot of conversations. And so I was like reflecting on, yes, Pride Month is here and everything that the LGBTQIA community is going through and everything that's happening. And I'm like, okay, let's at the baseline, maybe you don't accept another for how they identify or their lifestyle, but you can still see them as human. You can still see them. And when you see someone as human, it changes the way that you view the world. You just start at that basis. Maybe you're like, okay, I don't agree with the way that you're doing this. That's totally fine. You don't have to. In fact, that creates contrast and color and all of these different things in life experiences. And just because you don't now doesn't mean you won't ever. And so I'm fine with understanding that. But to see someone as a human first, just to see them, I see you. And it's been something that I've been reflecting on. Whereas, you know, some of the ways I grew up and was taught was like, no, this is bad. Like, this is a bad thing. And it's like, no, it's all about how you see. And if you don't see with the lens of humanity, you're not going to see very many people as human because we are all complex in nature. That is humans. We are complex. We are not linear beings. So, I just wanted to share that story because I think it goes in alignment with what we were talking about with humanity.
And I can also add a lot of the topics that we're experiencing now and have experienced for many years are very heavy. All of the isms, racism, colorism, sexism, and what we've noticed as kind of a trend is every time a group or somebody tries to address this, it becomes very heavy and then it tries to become very black and white, when in reality, it's not a black and white issue. Like you say, it's a humanity issue. And by bringing in different language that isn't so heavy, such as humanity or humanity philosophy, it makes it easier and kind of simplifies things that are complex. So I would love it. Like, I know you have a great analogy for general to specific. I think people would like to hear that.
Oh boy. All right, y'all. See if I can make this happen. So I actually just explained this to someone the other day. The more specific we are with something, the more momentum it gives. I'll give some examples on that, but I just want to lay the foundation. The more specific we are, the more momentum it gets. And the more general we are, the less momentum it creates. It starts to simplify. So more specific equals more complex. More momentum, more general is more simplicity and less momentum. And because we are all different beings in this life experience, the momentum is subjective. So I can bring up a topic and say something in specificity, and I have to rely on your momentum to take it wherever it's going to go. And your momentum and how you take it can be, and we're going to specifically use race in this and ethnicity in this context, could either be built on healthy biases unhealthy biases, wherever the momentum takes it. So if I'm talking to you and I tell you a story and I keep bringing up, oh yeah, my friend's Black, my Black friend, my friend over there, Black, I'm like, the more specific, oh, the Black woman with, that's a single mother, the Black woman the more specific, the more momentum is being built here. Now, I can't direct which way your momentum goes. Is it a positive or it's a negative? There's another component to this as well. I believe that in the context of building momentum in terms of the language that we're using, we're either trying to build momentum around a certain subject or we're trying to alert a threat. And we don't really know. And I think that that's where it starts to get really nuanced is, am I telling you that, and am I using this person's ethnicity and gender because I'm trying to build momentum for a topic, or am I using it to alert you of a threat? Now, the counterbalance is, let's talk about a comedian for a second. If a comedian sets up a joke and they say a Black person, a Jew, and a Muslim walk into a bar, they're specific, but they're building momentum for this story, for this thing that's happening. What I'm finding is we aren't great storytellers. Our culture is like, we're not great storytellers. They're amazing. I forget what they're called in the African culture, but there's these amazing storytellers that tell these stories. And we just tend to like share specifics without realizing the momentum that we're creating or the intent behind why we're saying something. So it builds up all of this stuff, right? The momentum is going, the more specific that we are. Before we know it, we can't even if we're trying to solve a problem, we can't, because the momentum is already taken off in a certain way. So how do we redirect that? How do we change that as we go as general as possible? So I'm going to use another example that's less on the ethnicity side, which is more like, if a friend does something to me and it upsets me and I'm just like talking about it and I'm just angry and I'm like, this friend, they did this and this is what they did and then they did this, and then I'm getting very specific, right? But if I taper back and go general and say, okay, they did something I didn't like. It's making me feel this way. You're already seeing I'm slowing the momentum down. And if we can get to, I am in misalignment with how I was treated, the momentum stops. Because in that moment of realization, you can say, I'm in misalignment. Great. I'm going to move myself into better alignment. Then you can start to attach to something a little bit more grounding and concrete. So this concept of being super specific with something, we are very good at that because we want specifics, right? We want to know, we want to understand, but we're not prepared for the momentum that it's building. And there's a whole nother subject on that because that also has to do with our self-care. So Kelsey and I have hosted a few sharing circles for companies, and there's a lot of momentum that's being built in those rooms. However, what allows us to facilitate these conversations, these tougher topics, or these harder to speak or say conversations, is we recognize the momentum, but we're also very aligned with our grounding and self-care. So the momentum might pick up, but we aren't getting wrapped up into the specificity of it. So we can hold space. And that's the ultimate thing, is like holding that space. So I feel like I can go into this much, much deeper, but that's essentially it. The more specific you are, the more momentum you're giving. And if you recognize your intent, you're either trying to give something momentum or you're alerting to a threat. And the more general you are, the less momentum it creates and the more simple it is to actually solve it. So that's that whole bit there.
And kind of along those lines, we've created the How to Become a Racist workshop, which incorporates bits of all of the things we just talked about, right? So it simplifies something that's very complex by taking it from the roots of, in this case, the topic of racism, and simplifying it using our humanity and using the general versus specific kind of dynamic. So from Kelsey and you, I'd love to hear, like what goes into making this curriculum and how it really influences people, whether it's employees in a company attending this workshop together, or if it's individuals kind of for their own personal development.
I can start. I think that was such a artful transition, Maria, because I think you're absolutely right. The foundations of the How to Become a Racist workshop, which is a 3-series workshop that happens, we offer it publicly, and we also offer it through organizations. And so it is built on the foundation of high vibration, history, and then simplifying and being a bit more general and acknowledging self and intention. And there's so much there of building awareness. And it's like we've all existed in this world for however many years being trained one way. Again, our surroundings, our upbringing, whether we were in a more urban area growing up or a suburban area, whether we were in the South or the North, whether we went to college or we didn't go to college, like all of this information has been built together to create our story and our story around ourselves, our stories around those around us. And so this workshop for me, the first time I took it, and now I think I've taken it 3 or 4 times, and every time just continuing to unpack, but it's that just don't overcomplicate it, bring awareness to it, and like get clear on your intention about how you want to treat the other humans around you, and providing yourself space to really have these aha moments has just been hugely impactful for me, for my entire family. I remember the first time I tried to have a conversation around racism as a family, it went south so quickly. And I was like, oh, wow, that did not work. Let's try that again. And I had to come back to them and say that, like, I'm so sorry that I pushed too many buttons. We need to, I want to try that again. And so I would have never had the guts to host that, like hold space for that conversation as a family and make mistakes if I wouldn't have attended this workshop, to have that space to really wrap my mind around these concepts in a different way.
Something that you said that I loved, and it ties back to our original question about what our meaning and our purpose is our purpose as a human is to be a good person, right? That's our only mission in life, is to show up for others. And sometimes we have to show up for ourselves so that we can give to others, which is where like the self-care workshop and everything comes in. But for this one specifically, it is kind of dissecting racism, but not at so much of a micro level where you feel overwhelmed. I think that's something that a lot of people, including myself, like struggled with in the past. It's like such a huge, massive issue, and we can go down to the micro level, but is that actually going to be productive? And so, Charisse, I'm sure you can add, it's like, in this case, it's a general topic, but the way we solve racism is also the way we solve a lot of these other isms.
Yeah. You're spot on. And I love, Kelsey, that story, because that is something that has happened for multiple people in this workshop. They're like, I don't really know where to start. And this is that space to really get into more on a personal level, but also like, okay, what is all included in this word of racism? It's such a deep word. And we break it all out to where there's not one single ethnicity called out in this workshop. Like, that is power in itself, because it really does come down to our humanity, how we view racism, what we're doing for ourselves, how it starts, where the origin is, because nobody's born racist. As a doula, when I help birth babies, none of the babies are like, you because they don't have any words. They don't know what I am yet. Like, energetically they do, I'm sure, but they don't have any words. So I think, but over a course of time, something happens. And what happens? And that's what this workshop is about. I'm very clear about how I feel around the words anti-racism. I don't think two negatives create a positive, and we're not transcending this conversation of racism. We should not be here right now. We should not be here right now. My skin should not matter in terms of how you're treating me. You can admire my skin. You can be like, oh, it's really beautiful. I'm like, thank you. But it shouldn't dictate if I get a job, if I get a loan, if I get this. Like, that is very primitive. And we should not be here right now. So why are we here? The only thing that I can see is there's not been a space or place for us to heal as a nation, as a humanity. And we're looking at this in the wrong way. If we really want to bring people together, and I'm going to say this thing that I saw over the weekend. So I'm a huge fan of the Bible. I think it's an amazing book with tons of like raw stories. Like, I don't know if people have read the Bible, but it's not like this like bedtime story. Like, there's some like deep stuff in there, and it's not about religion. So let me just be very clear about that. It has a lot of cool stuff, and I love reading. I'm like, oh man, that's pretty dope, or that's pretty savage. So anyway, I go ahead and like, I really resonate with some of the teachings in there. And one of my favorite books in the Bible is Matthew. It's in the New Testament, and it's Jesus essentially talking to the people, and really he's a great storyteller. And he's like telling the people, this is how you should treat people. This is how you should do this thing, and like giving guidelines on humanity, which I thought was really great. And over the weekend, I saw some people standing on the corner. I think they were a part of some organization. I don't really know, but they had like a bullhorn, and they were like yelling at like people, and they had signs and all of this stuff. And I remember looking to my husband, and I said, I don't think that's the best way to get people's attention. And the reason why is because if you're trying to convey a deep message, you want people to gather, and you want to be able to give them something. Jesus in the Bible did it with food. Every time he spoke to the people, he fed the people. And it was like, okay, so how we deliver a message and how to become a racist is we are not only giving people space, but there's conversations that are happening that where else are they going to get the grace and space to have them and the answers? And I will tell you, there was like one course that I did, and someone asked a question and I had no idea. And I'm like, I don't know, but let me come back to you. And so I did a little research and came back to them on that. So I think that how a message is delivered, especially when it's very, very tied to our humanity. And here comes our street sweeper. So I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it's like right outside the window. So I'll probably pause in a minute. I'm actually going to go on mute. Kelsey, take it from here.
You're okay. We don't really hear. Yeah, you're okay.
I was like, oh my God. How we deliver this message and how to become a racist is nothing that I've seen before. And I'm telling you, history and how things are being taught isn't really transcending. For Black History Month, they showed my daughter the same shit they showed me when I was in school. And it's like, really? All right, here we go again. And so it's like, when are we going to realize that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result? And so I question sometimes, well, do we really want to solve racism? Because if we did, there would be a huge shift. Because I talked with Tony about this, is racism profitable? And that's, we're not going to get into that. But the point of how to become a racist is to highlight humanity, to help solve not only racism, but the other isms that are harming our humanity, and to really give people a space and a platform to address the things that are causing everyone harm. even if racism is done to a specific ethnicity, it is hurting all of us. And we feel that. We feel another human is being harmed. So that's what I have to say. Kind of like went off there, but.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the, as you said, like, are we really trying to solve this as humanity? And if we were, we think it would look different. So I think some people just haven't spent the time to rethink what that different is. And I think that's the coolest part about your workshop, How to Become a Racist, because you've actually sat down and you've done so much healing on your own. So the root cause of change. And so you've lived that, and now you're able to teach others. And that's such a powerful message and a wave that we all get to ride. And I think it's only going to pick up positive momentum because it's having a really big impact on people's lives.
Thank you, Kelsey. I received that. And I have done a lot of healing.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Sorry. I would love to talk a little bit about the name of the workshop, because I think a lot of people will see this and be like, whoa, what is going on? I do like thinking about it as specifically the word become, how to become a racist, right? It's a process. The name of the workshop is not how to be a racist.
Yeah.
So can you walk us through a little bit of that story?
Yes. So it really stemmed from a lot of the conversations I was having with companies right after George Floyd was killed. And they brought me in to talk and hold discussions for their people around everything that they were feeling and going on. And it was very clear to me, the word racism came up so many times. It was either systemic racism or racism by itself. And it was just like being thrown around, and something didn't feel right. So I was like, okay, let's dig in a little bit deeper. And then it was like, that person was mean to that person, that's racist. And I'm like, whoa, we have a very skewed definition of what racism is. So I started educating on what racism was. And then I was like, I've always been very curious of like why. I've been a why child, and like, well, then, or how. And I'm like, okay, well, then how do you actually become racist? Because like I said, as a doula, I help birth and I don't experience it there. And so I decided to and I've also experienced racism from people that I love who were previously racist towards me. And I'm like, how does this whole process work? So I started asking people in my neighborhood, how do you become a racist? And just getting all of these different, very like one line like answers. Oh, you're taught, you're this, you're that, which doesn't really, so that type of generalism doesn't really help when you're trying to go into complex like solution. So that momentum, I needed more momentum to be able to figure out what was going on. And so I decided to like reflect internally and say, okay, Sharice, today you're going to be racist, go. Didn't really know where to start from there. And just continued to ask questions and got different answers, very similar answers from most people. You're taught, mainly you're taught how to be racist, or you just like, because of this, and, little things like that. So I was like, I'm going to create a workshop that's going to talk about how to become a racist, because there is a becoming of it. It's not a being, right? Like we're all becoming something. So we weren't at one point, and then we become something. So what is that journey of that becomingness? And so that's why I have it, how to become a racist. Some people say how to be a racist workshop. And I'm like, it's not how to be, it's becoming, because there is, I talk about from birth to racism, but there's also another journey after racism, which I've seen. And it's beautiful. It's after people do the work and healing from themselves, that they are like, oh my gosh, I now see that this was not the right way to treat or be as a human. What's really fascinating, and we won't get into Juneteenth, we'll probably have to save that for next week, but one of the things that I've been writing about is as I look through the timeline of Juneteenth, oppressed people oppress people. And that cycle tends to happen. And very similar to hate, you cannot give what you do not have. And so racism is filled with hate. And usually people that are racist really hate themselves. And then that's what it shows. It gets specific with bias projection. And that's where we start to see it on certain ethnicity levels or the isms and different things like that. So the name, I've been asked to change it a few times with some suggestions, but I'm holding very true to it because it captures the attention and it's a topic that is transcending. It's not one of those topics that you're going to get in and feel icky when you leave. You're going to feel much better when you come out of this workshop because of the way that we're identifying how racism starts and how to solve racism. And so that's a little bit behind the name and how it all came to creation. I couldn't hear you.
I was on mute. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
And for anybody watching, you can learn more about this workshop on our website at culturecircle.co. But yeah, we have multiple things. If you're looking more for like self-care, we also have those. So it's quite a few things that we've got going.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even see the comments. We have a comment from Dr. Monk. Okay, so we got a couple. So Germany, we got Germany in the high vibe zone. Amazing. That is so cool. Aw, person with the orange earrings. Yes. That is I. I'll throw the comment up there. Your skin does not matter.
It all comes down to your character.
Yes.
It does. I mean, I think my earliest memory, and we'll wrap this thing up, is I went to the pool and this little boy was like, "You can't swim here because you're Black." And I remember my mom tells the story vividly. And she says, I looked at him and said, "Don't you know your colors? I'm not Black, I'm brown." And then the kid was like, "Do you know that 1 + 1 is 2?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then we played for the rest of the day until both of us went home. And that's how I've always dealt with it. I've just been like very, there's so much there, but yes, the skin tone is less about the character of the human. And I think if we could, that sounds very too simple in itself. It's like, wait. And I know we're a lot more complex. Like we can conceptualize that as humans. We got this. Like, okay, look past the skin, the largest organ on the body. And let's actually dive into, anyway. But yes, D Monk, thank you. Dr. Monk, thank you. Oh, what did you have to heal from? I somehow did not follow the discussion. Well, we are at time-ish. I did not see these until later. Maybe we'll do a follow-up on some of. Is our internet wonky? I think it's time.
Yeah. And I think you answered the question as well by addressing that experience at the pool. There's constant healing when people are commenting or allowing or not allowing you to do things because of your skin tone. And you have many stories of that sort along your journey. And the fact that was something that you experienced at a young age. But as Dr. Monk said, it does all come down to character and clearly, having the support of your mom and different people modeling for you different ways to handle those conversations as well.
I have one more thing to say. I know we're at time. My mom would read me this book called The Hurt, and it's actually on my library right now. And if you guys are listening, live or recorded, I highly recommend reading this book. It essentially is about how our hurt can turn into bigger and bigger and bigger if we don't address it by talking about it or expressing how we're feeling. And before we know it, the hurt in this book got so big that the little boy was like, I don't think I belong in this world. And so that's what holding on and not healing allows us to do. And so then we are operating from the lens of we don't belong in this world. And if we are preaching that message to ourselves, what are we telling other people? And if that is the lens of education of things are coming from, of course, we're going to be preaching to negatives that don't transcend into a positive. And we're going to make it a black and white issue. And it just becomes not great for everyone.
Mic drop. It was great. That sums it up.
Okay. Listen, this has been an amazing conversation. Maria, thank you so much for facilitating this in the High Vibe Zone. Kelsey, girl, you just make my heart sing every time I see you. Just, yes.
Right back at you.
I mean, we don't have enough time on how we connected, and just everything is just like awesome. We'll have to do like a part 2 on this or something, but I want to just thank you, both of you guys, for being with me here in the High Vibe Zone. And I'm actually going to turn it over to both of you for the last words before I send us out with our blessing.
Thanks, Reese. I guess just last thoughts is, be human. We all have our faults, but we can all, do better together.
Yeah. I love that. And I also think that taking time to pause and rethink, just pausing for yourself and allowing yourself to receive new information and surrounding yourself with incredible people. Honestly, through my transition, I had to surround myself with people on the internet and it worked. Sharice and I did meet on the internet, but it's like no matter where you need the inspiration, you can find it, luckily, at this point in time. So I encourage you to continue seeking the positive vibes, the high vibes, wherever you need to find it at this point.
Well, with that, thank you all for being with us in the High Vibe Zone. We are sending you out with light, love, and gratitude for your time, space, and energy. And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.